been a problem ever since I was a little boy. Actually, I think it's gotten worse as I've gotten older. I thought I had it under control, but I was going through something.
I know I'm around 3 months late, but blame the almighty YouTube gods, okay? Because here's what happened. There I was, lazing about over the weekend as one does, when none other than Willard Smith randomly appears on my homepage. Now this was strange to me because I'm not subscribed to Will Smith and he never comes up on my feed. At least not since he went viral for... Oh, wow! But here's the thing. Given his recent disappearance and the cause of it, I was curious. And so I clicked. And little did sweet, innocent me know that I would be intruding upon a therapy session. No, seriously. The clip starts off very aptly, showing Will in a therapy session, where he attempts to describe to his therapist this big problem he's been dealing with his entire life. The song then starts, which I can't really play for copyright reasons, but here are some of the lyrics, just to give you an idea.
I like pretty girls, 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 girls. I like pretty girls, 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 girls. I like pretty girls, 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 girls. I like pretty girls, 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 girls.
After it was all over, I just sat there in a daze for a moment, trying to process what on earth I had just witnessed. And what's with the giant women? Actually, I do have some thoughts on that, which are incredibly relevant to this video. However, we have some sorting out to do first.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Recently, my Patreon has been transformed from a tip jar to simply support this channel if you can, to actually getting ad-free versions of the content you get here on YouTube. There are several tiers. You all get the same benefits because it's honestly up to you to decide how much this content is worth to you.
We return you now to your regularly scheduled program.
As I mentioned, I know I'm a bit late to the party. I mean, some would say fashionably late. And I know that the word around town is that Will Smith is going through a severe midlife crisis. But then I figured, you know, being trained as a lawyer, I don't want to waste my parents' good money. It is incumbent upon me to play devil's advocate, inspired by what little supporters, I suppose, he has left, and how they've been chastising the naysayers and claiming that they don't know him. This is just comedic. It's all just for fun. So I thought I'd play the game and give Willard a chance to redeem himself, if he can.
I was going through something.
It is indisputable that Will Smith hit his professional and likely personal rock bottom when he decided to full-on assault Chris Rock that fateful night in 2022. Admittedly, I haven't been following Will Smith's career in my adulthood. When I was a little girl growing up in the 2000s, his music was practically the soundtrack to our childhood, my brothers and I, and his movies. We just couldn't get enough of them. And then he had to go all feral, and now we have this. You know, I saw a post on Reddit that said the music video, the song, is more like an SNL skit, which I'm inclined to agree with. I mean, that was my initial reaction. Is this a joke? Is Will playing a game of 4D chess? Is he cleverly and comedically addressing the very old and stale notion of a midlife crisis? Or is this all done in earnest? The easier argument to make, and by far the most popular one, is that this is indeed a midlife crisis. Let's list some of the evidence in favor of this argument.
I'm being called on in my life to love people and to protect people. Love will make you do crazy things.
I like pretty girls. I like pretty girls. I like pretty girls.
Now for the opposing side's argument, namely that this is all done in the name of fun. Exhibit A.
So this one is called Pretty Girls. Little summer fun, just something to have some fun.
Exhibit B. Exhibit B? What do you mean we don't have an Exhibit B? Huh. Well, I guess we'll just have to make something up on the spot. Can't just give them one exhibit. Exhibit B. There's the fact that he's very aware of his issues in his video clip. And, yeah, I can't do this. But that doesn't mean that things end here for Willard.
The last few years for me have been really deep reflection.
There's also the argument that he's taken the time these past 3 years to do the work, to engage in some self-reflection.
After the Oscars, I shut it down for a minute and really went into the internal work.
Okay. Does that include therapy, like you're showing in your video clip? Or is it some weird version of DIY self-reflection, of deep healing in the bedroom, in the style of Jada Pinkett Smith?
And I was really able to do some really deep healing.
Here's a better question, actually. Does Will Smith genuinely feel remorseful for what he did to Chris Rock? We know he didn't apologize at the Oscars. Instead, he went on with this spiel of, oh, you'll do crazy things for love. He did release an apology video later that year where he said,
There is no part of me that thinks that was the right way to behave in that moment.
I mean, I would have believed you and all, Will, had you not followed it up a couple of years later with this.
But if you're talking crazy out your face up on the stage and disrespect me on the stage, expect me on the stage.
Yeah, it ain't looking too good.
It wasn't physical scars for me, but it was emotional and psychological, and the power that you cultivate, that you wear your scars, almost the way, Jesus wore his scars. That's the concept of beautiful scars.
Bish, you whacked a guy in the face at the Oscars for making a harmless joke about G.I. Jane, who I think is awesome. You didn't have to survive anything. Chris Rock did. And something tells me he wouldn't call the emotional scars, as you call them, that you gave him that night, beautiful. And finally, we have this clip from an interview Will gave to celebrity brown noser Trevor Noah.
At the end of the day, I lost it. You just never know what somebody's going through. I was going through something. Not that justifies my behavior at all.
I don't know, man. It's starting to sound like you're making excuses.
It's been a problem ever since I was a little boy.
It is almost impossible to talk about Will Smith's downfall since the Oscars without at least briefly mentioning Jada. Now, Jada and I go way back, all the way back to 2022. So I've already said my pieces about her. Hence, I'm going to restrict her involvement here to how Will sees women. Remember how I mentioned earlier in the video that there is this size issue with Will and the women featured in his clip? You can say I'm reading too much into this, but to me, that says a lot. When his music video started and he was telling the therapist about this lifelong issue, I thought this was going to be some commentary about his journey these past few years of getting better. Only to be met with...
I like pretty girls.
But the reason I thought that was because Will Smith has actually been quite open in the past about his deep-seated issues around how he views women, how he places them on this pedestal, and how he feels as though he can only gain satisfaction and contentment if he pleases them. And by them, in Will's case, it's Jada in particular.
That was a difficult one for me. When you stopped clapping when I did things in the exterior world that were great. Will Smith is a character.
Yep.
But deep down inside, I was an insecure little boy that wanted Jada to say I was great.
In addition to that, in his much more recent interview with celebrity brown noser Trevor Noah, and I say that because he did not challenge Will one bit. In fact, all he did was excuse him, enable him. You're not that kind of guy. But Will repeats something that he had written about in his memoir that was released in 2021.
You know, it was a lot of things. It was the little boy that watched his father beat up his mother.
When you look at things from that perspective, it does start to explain, but does not excuse a lot. It explains why Will allows Jada to walk all over him in public to humiliate him. It explains, but certainly doesn't excuse, why his demeanor instantly changed after one look from Jada that night. If you remember, Will's initial reaction to Chris Rock's G.I. Jane joke was to laugh. He was amused. And then Jada wasn't happy, and then something possessed Will, again, I'm not excusing him, but you can see it in real time, to then walk up on stage and assault the man before going back to his seat and losing his mind as he screamed at him. And it explains why he sees women as these larger than life creatures who hold the keys, the ever elusive keys to his happiness and fulfillment. He failed to protect his mother, whom he obviously loved very much. And so he has this lifelong, not just midlife, lifelong crisis in relation to women and getting their approval. So he's aware of his problems. I find it difficult to believe that the size discrepancy was an accident or a coincidence. So he's done that part of the work. Being aware is commendable. It means that you can now progress to solving the issue. But unfortunately, with that diss track, his freestyle, clearly aimed at Chris Rock, and his recent behavior, I don't think Will Smith is at the fixing or healing part yet. And that's it. I rest my case. I want to finish off on a bit of a personal note. I mentioned in the video that I grew up watching Will Smith movies, and his music was the soundtrack to our childhood. So I'm not trying to make this video to just lambast or, pile on the guy. Clearly, he is going through it. And while what he did to Chris Rock should never be excused, it's just really sad to see someone who was a very bright star just crumble before our very eyes. I take no pleasure in making this video. Honestly, it's just sad. So, guess that's all I have to say. Yeah, I think we're done here.